How's it going, everyone? I am going to be doing some more vlog style videos throughout this contest prep. And I thought, what better way to start it off by going through my annual plan with you guys. So, um, Basically, my planning for a contest prep starts usually the macro cycle prior. So, this last year, I basically spent all of my time preparing for this contest prep, putting on the requisite muscle tissue that was needed, and doing subsequent fat loss phases and other phases, such as maintenance phases, to kind of drop off the fatigue throughout that process. To kind of give you an idea for where I am at right now, I've completed that macro cycle. The more recent planning and structure that I had went with was basically I started with I did a muscle gain phase earlier in the year, a fat loss phase to get that some of the fat accumulated during the muscle gain phase off, and then I did a mass gaining phase for a little bit less time over the holidays so that I could drop off some of the diet fatigue from that diet and also be a little bit leaner when I start contest prep, but with less diet fatigue. And the best way to alleviate diet fatigue, and when I'm talking about diet fatigue here, just so you know, I'm talking about the negative adaptations that come along with being in deficit for a prolonged period after losing a lot of body weight. Things such as sleep disruption, food focus, low energy, and other things along those lines. Basically, it takes months to recover some of those things sometimes. But one of the most reliable ways we can alleviate some of that is to put ourselves in a surplus. So I did a mass gain phase with a slight surplus, dropped off a ton of fatigue, but I'm starting this contest prep lighter, or sorry, not lighter, but lower in body fat, lighter as well, than I did my previous contest prep. And that was one of the things I felt I could have improved on, was one, be leaner, but also in order to do that, start the contest prep leaner so I have less to lose. Now, as far as the contests, I don't have an exact contest picked out. I have a loose schedule. I have kind of a flagship show picked out, but my real goal is to get in shape. And once I know I will be in the best condition I possibly can, I will then pick a show, sign up for a show. And something I probably should have done last prep, knowing that that was the first time I had prepared for a show in 8 years. And also, I was doing it myself. I should have kind of let the show come to me, so to speak. But that is something I learned from that prep, and I'm moving forward, and I'm not picking the show until I am ready. But I should have more than enough time this time around as I am starting leaner, with roughly giving myself the same rough, loose timeline because I do still have somewhat of an outcome goal. It is just going to be more determined on how I'm looking. So, anyway, I did a maintenance phase uh, right now, actually, to drop off the fatigue from the previous dieting and mass gaining. I had done active rest in the past, and it worked fine for the specific situation coming out of a mass gain. Coming out of a mass gain going into a cut. But I felt like I needed a little bit more fatigue reduction. So I took a full 4 weeks at maintenance calories and maintenance training volumes. And I can already tell I'm getting like pumps, crazy pumps from doing the 2 or 3 sets that I am doing in the gym. And that's something that we see start to climb as you're doing lots of volume for prolonged periods. Is that it's just start taking more and more sets to get the same amount of stimulus, same amount of pump and soreness. And I mean, if you look at my RP hypertrophy, I can go over that when we go over the app. I was doing 30 sets, I believe, on like shoulders and back. So it was just taking a ridiculous amount of sets to get the level of stimulus I needed to grow, which is to be expected. But by doing a maintenance phase, I've dropped that back down. My diet fatigue is totally alleviated, or for the most part is alleviated. The training fatigue is very low. I have no accumulated injuries. So I'm starting this prep very, very fresh, very ready to go. And during that phase, I will drop my pharmacology. I'll drop my PEDs down to maintenance levels. For me, what that looks like to be able to maintain my muscle mass currently is about 250 milligrams of testosterone per week. And that is basically due to my overall body weight. I'm using about a milligram per pound or so. I found I maintain pretty well on that. Now, I don't like to give out prescriptions like that, but that is a good starting place for most people. About 250 milligrams of testosterone per week. I administer every day. And so I split up that 250 across the week. And 2 IUs of growth hormone as well, which is like slightly above physiological. Yeah, somewhere physiological, slightly above. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Also 100 micrograms of T4. I just found that it's just better to be on replacement now because of being a higher doses at long periods of time. So that was what I was at. And towards the end of that maintenance phase, I took some blood work. Now the testosterone wasn't fully out of my system yet because it has a few half-lives to clear and it takes about a month. So you'll notice, and I actually did taper my dosage down. So you'll notice my testosterone is pretty high on this test. But so I ran that blood work just to make sure I'm in a good place for contest prep. If there are any red flags, me need to delay and take care of those. But luckily, my blood work has been looking good for a really long time and has been looking increasingly better, as you can see from the references here, over time. The last time I did this was in May, which was also when I was on very high, some of my highest dosages actually. I was on my highest dosages at the time. And I was like towards the end of that mass gain cycle that I did earlier in the year. And that's one thing you'll notice here too, is like you can't really distinguish between when I'm on a lot of gear and when I'm not based on my blood work. It looks pretty much the same, which is pretty cool to see. And it also is a good reason for those of you out there who tolerate a lot of things out of range on your blood work to know that you can do better, right? This is through medication, this is through dietary intervention, and being conscious of my blood work over time, to the point where now it doesn't look any different whether I'm on or off, or I'm on HRT, or I'm not training, whatever. It all looks the same all the time. I even have lab work that I posted on my Instagram last year during contest prep where my blood work looked phenomenal. Very few things out of range. So you can see my right here is the last time I tested these during the peak mass. I think I was on like 1,500 milligrams or so total gear, or 4 or 5 IUs of GH. Some other ancillary compounds in there. Currently on this HRT, TRT plus that I mentioned during this test, with some of it still clearing out of my system. So you notice TSH is low, and T4 is probably right in the middle of the reference range. So it looks pretty good. I may implement a thyroid T3 replacement when the diet starts. We'll see. But that's, nothing that is kind of concerning. TSH kind of just becomes a little less relevant when you're on thyroid replacement. So I don't even really look at that number. I think I was on T3 as well during this test. So that might make for an argument to push that up as well. But nothing concerning there. RBC, hemoglobin, and hematocrit, a lot of people look at these and get freaked out. It's just totally normal for someone on a higher level of androgens. The more important things are your platelets in range, which mine are in range. Upper end of that being 450. That would basically lead to polycythemia if this was high. That would lead to viscous blood, which a lot of people associate with high hematocrit hemoglobin. So platelets are normal, so I'm good there as far as blood viscosity. And my ferritin, we'll get to that when we get there, but that my iron storage is also low, so my risk of liver toxicity and stuff are low. And that would be the things I'd be concerned with higher red blood cells. So this is not something concerning. We want this higher oxygen carrying capacity for more endurance. So that is not anything to be concerned about. My blood pressure's in range too. So that's fine where it's at. Nothing else out of range here. AG ratio is slightly elevated, nothing concerning. That might be a hydration thing. Actually, I have to look up that marker. I don't see it elevated too much. But not too concerning there. Creatinine lower than it was. Again, creatinine's in range, BUN's in range. EGFR's in range. And blood pressure is good, so I'm not really concerned about that. Eventually, I would like to get a kidney ultrasound to see if I've had any damage or scarring. But nothing to be concerned about as far as kidney health. I also did a urinalysis here, and I think we're looking for protein in the urine. That can be an indicator that you're having kidney issues, and there's nothing there as well. So no problems there. AST, ALT back within range. I think that was one of the ones that was slightly elevated when I was on higher amounts of gear. Everything else looks good on the urinalysis. We could also be looking for glucose for early signs of diabetes, which I am not getting. Cholesterol looks fine. lower end of the reference range. Triglycerides, lower end of the reference range. Another good one for cardiovascular health. LDL, I've dropped down even further. I've been on a mission to keep this as low as possible to keep my cardiovascular disease risk low. Sorry. And it seemed like the newer reference ranges and some of the people coming out are recommending 70 all the way down to like 50 or as low as you can get it for LDL, which I've been able to continue lowering through. Ezetimibe is one of the medications I use at 5 milligrams a day, and then I just eat a ton of dietary fiber. I think as far as the things that we can protect ourselves against as enhanced bodybuilders is, heart and kidneys are some of the things that affect people most. So keep our cardiovascular disease risk down by keeping the LDL as low as possible, keeping the blood pressure in check for both kidneys and heart. And then some other lagging indicators. ApoB is one that we want to make sure the atherogenic particles are low, so the ones that actually cause the plaque depositions that can lead to clogged arteries and heart attack. And then some of the other ones I mentioned for kidneys as well. So those are the ones I really try to focus on as far as overall risk of heart attack and kidney damage in the future, or as I'm doing this, and complications in the future. HDL actually brought up as well. I wonder if this is in part maybe due to my higher fiber intakes. Just for reference, I've been averaging like 100 grams of fiber per day recently. That might drop a little bit during contest prep, but as I get leaner, we'll see these also start to improve more to just to having lower body fat levels. That will improve a lot of these lipid parameters for me usually. Now testosterone, iron. Iron is within range. This is one that you don't want to get too high, but you also don't want to get too low. So I do have some red meat in my diet, and that is really important, especially for females because they do lose blood through menstruation. Testosterone is obviously high outside the reference range. Again, this is, I generally probably will stay around 1,500 to 2,000 for the actual maintenance of my tissue. That's where like 250 usually puts me anyway. So I don't really think the risk is very substantial up till like 500 milligrams of testosterone from what I've seen. The risk isn't negligent, like it's still there, but it is just a little bit, it's just not as pronounced as it is at a gram plus of androgens. Hemoglobin has dropped a little bit. That's good. That's a lagging indicator of our glucose over time in the blood. So not in the blood. I can't remember. Bound to hemoglobin, I believe. Anyway, that is dropped. That's good. DHEA dropped a little bit based on the advice of the person at Merrick last time. So that's a little bit higher in the reference range. Although I don't think that this is bad if it's out of the reference range because all of my other steroid hormones are way above the reference range. So I actually may even increase the DHEA a little bit. I did recently start pregnenolone as well. And DHEA and pregnenolone are neurosteroids. They help with like cognitive function, libido, and some other things like that. Well-being, anxiety is something that can contribute if they are low. So I try to keep those in the reference range as well. Cortisol, not really something I'm too concerned with, to be honest. Prolactin, I did drop in half through the supplementation of P5P. I do take a anxiety medication, Lexapro, and I believe that was in part why this raised up so high. And literally through P5P supplementation, I was able to bring this down. I want to stay away from things like cabergoline and other drugs that lower prolactin because they do have long-term negative side effects that could be very harmful to your health. PSA, prostate-specific antigen, is within reference range, very low, so that's good. Insulin growth factor, this is on about 2 IUs, so that's pretty normal for 2 IUs. Slightly, you're seeing this put me slightly out of the reference range, as I had mentioned, for growth hormone. Vitamin D hydroxy has gotten very high. I'll probably lower the dosage down now. It's been slowly climbing over the years. Happy with where that's at. LPA has increased a little bit. Not too concerned with that. Cardiac CT, I actually had an infection. C-reactive protein. I had an infection during this, so this is probably just an outlier measurement. As you see, my last one was 1.26. I do want to make sure that's a little bit lower. So this is systemic inflammation. It can actually be correlated with the cardiac disease risk. So I'm going to retest this one in a few weeks. That's the only one that's an outlier, though. And again, I do believe I had an infection. So if this is kind of climbing over time, then I'm going to keep an eye on it because normally I'm actually just below the reference range or undetectable. A little bit of inflammation is normal with higher androgens, but definitely I'll retest this one soon. That's the only thing that was an outlier on this blood test. Estrogen, Higher than reference range, totally fine because my testosterone is higher. GGT, good indicator of liver health. That's a little bit lower, so that's probably a good indication my liver is doing okay outside of AST and ALT. Insulin is low. We want this below 5, and that'll get lower as my as my body fat reduces. Ferritin within the reference range. That was the one I was talking about earlier, which is iron storage. And T3 lower mid reference range, and this was on thyroid replacement over here, so I'll probably go back to that here soon. SHBG, so the amount of hormone that is bound is low in the single digits, so that's fine, I won't touch that. ApoB, exact same as last time, and as you can see over here, as far as the cardiac risk, I'm below 90, so I'm in the desirable range for ApoB, atherogenic particles that can contribute to heart disease. So overall, I'd say this looks really good. The only one that I'm going to test probably soon, I'll just pay to have this independently tested, is my inflammation, the C-reactive protein. Again, I think that was because of an infection, but it's something I want to keep an eye on, and that's really the only thing I've been noticing that has been out of reference range. So not something I'm too concerned with, but I will go and double check that one here soon. So I am in good health. Blood pressure is in range at 80 milligrams of telmisartan, which is an ARB blood pressure medication per week. And everything else sleeps good. Wearing my CPAP machine. I am due for, cardiac CT scan, which I will probably do here soon. If I can get, I can probably get a doc that I know to write the prescription for it. So hopefully I'll get that here soon as well, and then we can really see everything's going on as far as my heart health, because you can't just determine heart health based off of these things alone. You do need some scans as well. And I do recommend anybody who's enhanced using high amounts of androgens to be doing those scans and also getting comprehensive blood work like this. I do every 3 to 4 months, and it is $450 a panel, and that is just what is necessary to make sure that I am protected and I'm healthy long-term doing this and reducing my risk as much as possible. So let's go over to the diet plan. What was the date of this blood work? Well, I got you guys here. This blood work was done on 109. So actually, we can just go over to Pharmacology. I know you guys are probably concerned about that, and probably something that you're all interested in. I am doing a little bit of a different approach with Pharmacology this contest prep. I do need to go back and fill this in. This was like 1,500, 1,700 milligram total androgens. This you can see my whole planning throughout the year with little periods of maintenance throughout. Anyway, this is actually where I plan on going on Monday, the first day of contest prep. So we're going 1,000 milligrams total of androgens per week, split between testosterone and masteron. I will keep testosterone a little bit lower than I normally do throughout contest prep, just for a little bit less aromatization, and due to that estrogen having an input on angiotensin, which can lead to water retention. So I'll probably keep testosterone around that, but I will probably titrate up to like 1,500 milligrams to 2,000 milligrams towards the end of contest prep. So as compared to my previous contest prep, I started about 500 last time. This time I'm being a little bit more aggressive, and there are a few reasons for that. One is tissue retention. 2 is maintaining a better body composition throughout. I think that I just didn't consider the fact that I can still lose muscle even with some anabolics in play. I think I needed a little bit more, and you're still susceptible to muscle loss in a steep deficit, and I think I was in a pretty steep deficit last contest prep. So this time around, deficit is more conservative, giving myself more time, starting leaner, and I'm starting with a little bit higher PEDs. I think I started with like 500 milligrams and 2 IUs, so I'm just basically doubling that, starting there, and then I will titrate my dosage up over time throughout contest prep as needed. I'm using a little bit more GH2, talked to a few people. Again, I think for tissue retention, depending on the level of deficit, you might not need a whole lot, but I still am going above 500 calories, so I'm going 750 calorie deficit. So I need a little bit more for tissue retention. This also might just keep me leaner, keep my body composition a little better too. Telmisartan at 80 milligrams. I'll probably drop this down to 40 throughout contest prep as my weight comes down, and then bring it back up for peak week just to keep the water retention down. And then I got thyroid replacement, well, just the T4 replacement. I will put in replacement T3 probably here soon. We'll be starting with injectable L-carnitine, and I will be on 1 milligram semaglutide. I was on 0.5 throughout here. And the reason why I'm on this much is because I had lost like 30 pounds in this previous diet phase. So I'm still carrying a little bit of that diet fatigue still. Not diet fatigue, but some of the physiological processes haven't recovered. So I do still have some hunger residually. So I'm just going to lead throughout contest prep, and I should be totally fine. Not too concerned about that. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as farm. That will be played by ear. As far as my annual plan here. Oh, also, this is kind of like what I do with my clients, just so you guys know. They use the same sheets I do. We all, that's how I update my clients, update myself, and I do send them videos each week kind of going over this stuff. So I figured now that we're like, I don't know, 20 minutes into the video, I figured I would kind of go through this as I would for a client, the whole assessment, the whole process, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, anyway, so this is my contest prep. This is the tentative plan. Again, as I mentioned, I'm going to play this by ear, but I do still know that I can survive a 4-to-1 paradigm, 4 weeks of accumulating volume, 1 week deload at maintenance calories. And that's probably what I'm mostly going to run, except for I think right here has to be like a 3-to-1 or 2-to-1 for contest if I end up competing on that day, which we'll see if I do or not. I might compete earlier, might compete later. We will see. I started collecting some weight averages throughout this week. So averaging about 252 or so right now, which is totally fine, about where I ended my mass gain phase at. And then I did put in a sample day of my nutrition, but this would put me at my maintenance calories is 3,500. This would put me at a 750 calorie deficit, step average about 1,200 per day. But this is just a sample day. I went through and logged in Chronometer, and I will show you that currently right now. I hope this is my account. So basically, I just went in and put out like a sample day. What a sample day might look like for me. Let's see if it loads. Let me load it in real quick. Oh, there it goes. What a sample day might look like for me. I already kind of know the meals that I like to eat when I'm dieting and kind of how I like to eat them, what order I like to eat them in. But I put this in so I can just copy it over each day so that I don't have to rethink about what I'm going to eat. But if I do want to change something, I will, and just adhere to my overall calories and protein goal for the most part, and I'll be okay. So yeah, I'm a flexible dieter during contest prep. Just mostly eat whole foods, so I have no real issues getting my micronutrients in. I go out to eat on occasion because I have the skill in order to do that, because I know how to account for oils and things like that in foods and leave a calorie buffer, which I did all through my last diets, and still hit my rate of loss targets the whole time. So yeah, I just generally am flexible with my meal choices. I'll move things around need be, but I still have a plan of like what I'm going to eat, so that if I'm like busy on a particular day, I just eat what I know I normally eat, and I don't have to worry about it. But if I want to switch something out or I run out of something, I totally do. So I'll have a whey casein shake during training, or on my way to the gym, or first thing in the morning, just depending. But before training, and some fruit or rice cakes or whatever, some sort of carbs. I want at least 15 carbs, and I want a mix of whey and casein because of muscle protein synthesis. Basically, whey kind of causes this spike and then this drop off. And if I'm in the gym for a long time, then I don't want that to occur. So what I'll do is I'll go to the gym, I'll take my like GH, my L-carnitine, all those shots, go to the gym, I'll do cardio for 20 or 30 minutes, answer messages on the treadmill while I walk. I'll get about 5-6K steps right there, and then I'll start sipping on this and start warming up for training. Drink that during training, maybe eat an apple or two before training too. Usually doesn't bother my digestion too much. I'll come home, usually have oats. I usually want something sweet here and a really dense calorie and carb meal. I'll have this. I just want like a dense calorie meal just for the sake of it being more satiating throughout the day. Fine if I have a big breakfast or big meal one, and then some decent food towards the nighttime. I'm not too hungry midday, so I don't allocate a whole lot of calories right there. That's something I kind of play by ear, but nutrient timing, really, if you're eating carbs and protein around your workout, you're pretty much covered. Like right here, I have a pretty low carb meal, makes no difference on overall throughout the day. I'm getting most of the carbs and calories I need and spacing out my protein. Those are the more important things. I focus more on my hunger signaling during this phase, so I'm not too worried about like muscle well, I'm worried about muscle protein synthesis, but I'm not too worried about like slamming carbs at every meal and all this shit. You know, as long as I'm adhering to those bigger principles, getting enough protein, multiple protein feedings throughout the day, carbs and protein around the workout, I'm pretty much covered as far as muscle and tissue retention. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I will have like this keto bread and salad midday. I'll either have tuna or canned salmon. And then I have potatoes, chicken, avocado here, and then I usually have a salad at night with some like hard-boiled eggs and a bunch of different veggies and stuff, and I can add those as well. But yeah, you see my total macros here are about 300 protein, 250 or so carbohydrates, and about 65 fats. I'm going with a little bit like a 1.5, 1.2 grams protein per pound, just because of the heightened protein synthesis from like growth hormone and other things like that, and anabolics. And then, you know, obviously lots of fiber, about 60 grams for satiety and for general health as well. And then fats around like 0.25 or so grams per pound, to make sure that I have just enough for normal bodily functions, and also satiety, because I think people negate the fact that fats do contribute to satiety. I know from anecdote before, when I pull my fats really low, I get really ravenous, and it keeps my that with fiber keeps me going until the next meal, especially during contest prep when I have those fats. So I try to keep those where they're at, and then just modify carbohydrates or activity level from there. So that's pretty much it on the diet front. Is subject to change, but this is about a 750 calorie deficit roughly currently. You can look at my macros here for the most part, and all those vitamin E I could probably get a little bit more of. Supplementing with omega-3, so I don't need to worry about that. Saturated fat, pretty low. Fiber is at 100 grams per day, which is probably where I'll keep it. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the diet goes. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will get to them. Oh, I don't need ChatGPT right now. Okay, now let's go over to the training. So I basically copied over my mesocycle. Here, I'll actually... Oh, I can't. Yes, I can. Sorry, there's a jet flying over. So, I'm going to show you my old mesocycle. Oh, God. Is that a jet? What was that? Fucking loud is what it was. All right. So basically, I just took my massing mesocycle and I made some modifications. I don't really need to like change a whole lot, because I'm not picking a lot of like really big compound moves um, during like my massing. I'm picking better SFR movements, so better stimulus to fatigue ratio movements throughout massing. So I just picked like if I felt like something was working, I rotated it out during the maintenance phase, and I started with just a bunch of new variations so that I could put them back in now without them being stale. And a lot of this stuff was working really well, so I just want to keep progressing on a lot of these movements. So I guess I can't really show you the view, so it's not going to be super helpful to you. So I'll just explain what I did. I lowered my frequency a little bit. I had a little bit higher frequency for back and a little bit higher frequency for like shoulders, and a couple other movements. I think like triceps, like arms. And I basically changed that because due to not needing as much frequency, like basically I generally will increase frequency as the mesocycle goes along, allowing me to do more volume. But since my volume has kind of been reset by doing this lower volume phase, I don't need as much volume for all these. So overall, less exercise variations, less frequency, and I will start to change that more towards looking like the previous mesocycle throughout this contest prep. I was a little bit more mindful of SFR, so things that are just less fatiguing that will provide a great stimulus. You can kind of get away with higher RSM movements, higher like overall fatiguing exercises like deadlifts and squats and stuff when you're massing, because you have the extra recovery resources, but you don't because you're dieting during a deficit. So you want to try to pick better SFR movements. And I wasn't able to put comments in here, but I'll kind of tell you some of the stuff I wanted to experiment with too. So Smith machine row, I'm actually going to do these a little bit differently. I am going to do a little bit of like thoracic flexion and extension, or no, not really. Actually, it'll be kind of hip flexion and extension, so that when I come up, I'm changing the resistance profile of the exercise. So when I come up, I'm actually using my hips a little bit, but then it's like a shit. What is it called? Um, it's not like an overloaded eccentric. It's something along those lines. Basically, where it's easier on the concentric, but it's a little bit eccentric overload, a little bit harder on the eccentric. So the way I'll be performing these is rowing up and kind of lifting up my torso, but then lowering under control and getting a really big stretch. And so what that does is changes the resistance profile of the exercise so that it's a little bit harder at the bottom, a little bit easier at the top, and then that it also is a little bit harder on the way down than it is on the way up. So I'm experimenting with that. Prime chest supported row is just a flagship exercise for my back training right now. Then I have a high rep lat variation of choice. Oh, guys, this is the Hypertrophy app as well, just so you know. That I plan my mesocycle in. High rep lat variation of choice. I think I'll just kind of go to the gym and maybe try a couple things out and then pick something. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the dumbbell incline curls in yet, but I have 2 bicep variations here. I have kind of like a bicep and a shoulder focused day where I have 2 variations instead of 1. And then I have shoulders, and this is the crossbody cable lateral. I'm not sure which variation I want to do, if I want to do single arm or 2 arm, or I want to do behind the back, but I'll kind of feel that out when I get to the gym. And then I have chest. Smith machine bench has been one that I've kept in. I've kept in a lot of these exercises. I only basically rotated something out if I felt like it was stale from the previous. And staleness being like I wasn't progressing on it, was hurting my joints, or I was just straight up bored of it, or the SFR was no longer favorable. It was taking me a lot of sets to get a lot of stimulus. Rotated a lot of that stuff out, so I'll tell you where I rotated stuff out actually. These are all the same, rotated out the lat variation here, and I'm probably gonna rotate this out. We'll see. And then here, this is the same, this is the same. I changed to a dumbbell fly press because I was doing this during my maintenance phase and actually was feeling really good. Kind of that same eccentric overload thing, and it felt like harder in the stretch because you can basically use heavier load because you're doing like a fly press, you can use more than if you did like a dumbbell fly by itself. So I'll come down here into the stretch position and get a ton of tension that I normally wouldn't get in the stretch, and then I just press it up, kind of like an eccentric overload in the stretch position. So that movement I've been liking a lot. Smith machine skulls are the same as before, one of my favorite exercises. Rotated out the dumbbell overhead extension for, it's going to either be a seated barbell or a cable. I'm doing Smith machine upright row instead of a cable upright row, and then I'm doing single arm machine preachers. Probably going to do some lengthened partials there, but I was doing barbell preacher curls before. Probably going to do a machine crunch here. I think I actually, because I was doing stretch crunches before. There we go. I'm going to do a machine crunch this mesocycle. I have the free motion machine, and then I put a Bosu ball under my back to get a good stretch. I might stick with this exercise, incline side lying dumbbell lateral raise. It's a really good exercise, more lengthened bias dumbbell lateral raise. We will see. Lying leg curl, we got a prime lying leg curl, so I'm switching from, I can't remember what the other one was, like a free motion machine or whatever it was. Roger squat, I'm rotating in, out from the Smith squat previously. And then if we get the Atlantis V2 hack, we're supposed to get the Atlantis V2 hack squat in time by this. I will use that. If not, I might just do Smith squats or leg press. We'll see. And then I got calves again. I'm starting with calves and abs, by the way, so don't skip them, because during contest prep, that is like the first thing you'll skip if you're tired or you get busy. So they're going at the beginning of every session. Pull-ups, I'm doing a little bit wider parallel grip than I was doing before. I'm doing some straight arm pull-down variation. I might do the hammer strength machine just because I've been doing these for a long time. They're not super stale yet, but I wanted to try some lengthened partials on the hammer strength machine, so we shall see. I remember getting really sore when I did those last time, so and then getting a crazy stretch. So go pull-over variation of choice. Prime chest supported row, same one as Monday here. And then if I switch out the dumbbell incline curl, I'll switch it out here as well. I'll repeat in a different rep range though. Same here. This is a higher rep range, 15 to 20. This will be like 5 to 10. And then I have dumbbell lateral super ROM. And then I'm going to go to lengthened partials. And that's just kind of a superset I've been wanting to experiment with. Well, not a superset. I'm going to do it as a down set at first, and then eventually I will do it as a superset, maybe next mesocycle. And then some rear delts, because I do feel like I need a little bit, but I do get most of that from my rowing. This movement's staying the same. New chest variation, I'm just going to pick a machine. We have a ton of different chest machine presses at the gym. This is a cambered bar, but with neutral grip. Smith machine skulls are the same, and then I did a crossbody. This is supposed to be a crossbody cable tricep extension. I'm kind of doing a pre-exhaust here, but I might switch that around. I might do pre-exhaust here and then do the extensions after the skull crushers here. I do find that I sometimes feels crazy. I get a crazy pump from doing the extensions first and then going to the skull crushers. Another crossbody cable lateroids. This one's going to be in a lower rep range, 10 to 15, 15 to 25, somewhere in there. Free motion curl, 7 to 12, 15 to 20 here. Different ab duration. I don't have it here. Let me type it in for you. I'm going to do... actually, I was going to do a lengthened partial Roman chair lift. Weighted. Let's see if I can find that. Hanging knee raise, cool. I'm going to do this weighted as a lengthened partial. I've been doing lengthened partials for pretty much all of my ab and calf work, just so you know. Oh yeah, calves. Let's see. Leg press calves. I'm doing the new calf machine. It's the, I don't know if it's like carrying or whatever. I can't remember. Pre-core maybe, where you push like this. I'll use that, and then I'll do leg press calves. That sounds good to me. Same variation as over here. This is 15 to 20. I'm going to do this in like the 5 to 10 rep range. Rogers GM is going to be my good morning variation. And then I'm going to do a front foot elevated Smith lunge for quads because I need a little bit of balance between mine. And then I'll do the Atlantis V2 hack again. I might, for convenience sake, do the Rogers again at a 15 to 20 rep range. We shall see. But yeah, that's my training mesocycle. Nothing too complicated, just lots of movements that work really well. I'm doing equal volume distribution, but I am still putting my priority muscle groups earlier in the week and then less prioritized later. So you have legs, which are my strongest muscle group, go third in rotation. And that's pretty much it. I might play around with like putting triceps first here or like shoulders before one of these sessions. But overall, I like the balance of the sessions. Not sure if I'm going to do any AM, PM this mesocycle. I might, but I might not. That's another thing. With frequency increases, I'll need more volume. My sessions will be longer, and I will also split those AM, PM more. But I think I'll probably just try to get them knocked out. I do have a lot of work this first mesocycle, so it allows me to just get in the gym, get home, work for the rest of the day. So yeah, I think I'm sticking with that. There we go. We got contest prep meso 1. Man, I do need a new computer. This is stressing my computer out. Okay, hopefully that works. Five weeks, because I'm doing 4 weeks of accumulation, 1 week deload, and I'm using pounds. Boom. All right, we are ready to go. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. It was a lot, but that's basically my whole process. Now basically the next thing is just executing on that, making sure I stay healthy, doing blood work throughout the contest prep, and auto-regulating on this plan. So this is a loose plan, and if things come up, events, I need to make a modification, I will collect the necessary data and I will make modifications. And just so you know, some of the data points I'm using to make those adjustments before I sign you off here is basically looking at my weight average change week to week. Although because I'm starting with higher PEDs, my weight just might stay the same. So then what I'm going to be doing is looking at my waist measurements and my current look. And I'll just kind of give you guys a current look. I don't have them in my sheets yet. I probably should. We'll go to Instagram here. I'll use my look, waist circumference, and then just know that I'm in a calorie deficit because I did my math correctly and I know what my maintenance calories are. I will drop that over contest prep due to metabolic adaptation, but the thing is with higher levels of farm, basically it causes this noise, and sometimes your body weight doesn't drop. You could actually just be recomping, which I suspect actually might happen because I use usually so little farm during prep that I might be gaining muscle and losing fat. So let's go to my profile here. What's up, Dom? This guy trains at my gym. Hell yeah, dude. Back's looking crazy. Okay. Sorry for the lag, guys. I think I need a new computer. Okay, so I'll just kind of show you where I'm looking right now. This is during my maintenance phase. This is going to be my start photos. I'm going to be taking photos here in contest prep. That's one thing you want to make sure you replicate during contest prep. Taking photos in the same lighting, same place, so that you can make accurate assessments. But yeah, this is how I'm looking currently. I'm really happy with this look. I'm much bigger than I started last contest prep, especially in the chest, shoulders, arms, lats, all the areas I needed to bring up. The legs are, where they need to be, and since I'm going to be training a little bit more, they might come up a little bit too during this next phase. But I'm really happy with everything is. My waist generally shrinks a lot, so this shot will look really good. Yeah, man, that's how I'm looking currently. So super excited with where I'm starting in a much better place, just to lead to a more successful contest prep. So yeah, guys, if you found this video helpful at all, you want to see more, be sure to like it. Let me know what you liked about it, what you'd like to see covered in future videos. I will be doing these check-ins more frequently, so that you guys can kind of see my process and how I'm thinking about things and how I'm going through and making adjustments throughout contest prep. So as always, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you all soon.